I woke up hungover that day in my college dorm. I had drunk way too much at a bar the night before, celebrating until sunrise, what would be my 20th birthday. When I checked my mailbox around noon, there was a white envelope with handwriting on it and no sender. Happy birthday, Carrot. I'm still waiting for you at the same place. Come here tomorrow at dawn and look for my blue coat. Signed, Mom. Reading those words sent chills all over my body. Since my mom vanished 8 years earlier, my family had gotten dozens of fake letters and false leads. But that word Carrot told me this one was different. It was our inside joke. She started calling me that after I once scarfed down a whole plate of carrots just so she'd let me go play at the arcade. Nobody else could have known. My mom disappeared on a trail near town. We used to hike it almost every Sunday as a family. It was about 2 miles, ending at a pond where locals like to fish. That day, my dad was sick, so it was just me and her. We laughed and walked until I had to pee. She told me to go ahead and stayed behind, maybe 20 feet away. Nothing seemed unusual while I was peeing in that tree, except for the sound of a branch snapping, which I brushed off as nothing. I finished, turned around to call her, and she was gone. I waited half an hour, thinking maybe she'd stepped off the trail too. Then I ran to the pond. Then I sprinted back to the parking lot, and the car was still there, locked. She had vanished into thin air. One of the local fishermen called my dad and the cops, and soon they combed every inch of that forest. Everyone was looking for her blue jacket, something that would stand out against the trees, but they never found a trace. Pretty soon the whole state knew about it, the kid that lost his mom. It usually went the other way around. Then came the TV reports, the YouTube channels, the podcasts. Theories stacked up. First, people said she left due to an affair with a coworker, a known womanizer that had suspiciously moved out of state. Second, that she was killed by the so-called pickaxe maniac, a serial killer who'd murdered 3 women in the region a few years earlier and usually leaves the murder weapon at the spot. Third, the cops considered my dad might have done it for the life insurance money. No proof ever surfaced, and her case faded into silence. Right after I got the letter, I called my dad, telling him about the carrot thing. His reaction was hard to read. We hadn't spoken in months after some stupid fights, but he insisted the letter was a prank. He practically begged me not to go, said I should call the police immediately. His desperation ticked me off, so I hung up on him, same as last time we argued. I decided I'd go back to that trail. Even if it was a joke, I needed to know if there was any hope left of seeing my mother. I drove all night and got there at dawn, parking near a pickup with some fishing equipment in it, the only other vehicle there. The trail was burned into my memory from all those childhood walks, even if I hadn't set foot on it since the day she disappeared. I walked for a few minutes and stopped at the same spot where I'd stepped off years ago to pee. Standing there again felt unreal, and not in a good way. I reached the same tree I had peed on, and froze, staring at the trunk like it owned me something. Then I heard a crack behind me, like a branch snapping, just like I remembered from that day. I spun around and saw nothing unusual, just the wind pushing leaves. Then I noticed it, a flash of blue in the distance. I followed it excitedly to find a tree with a tight blue coat wrapped around the trunk. I touched it and knew it was the same one she wore that day. Tears fell off my eyes almost automatically. Tucked under it was another envelope. I pulled it out and it had the same handwriting. Glad you came, Carrot. I'm right beneath you. I looked down, and the ground nearby looked freshly disturbed, like it had been dug up not long ago. My hand shook as I started digging, fast, frantic. Whatever truth was buried there, I needed it, or I thought I needed it. Soon, I hit something solid, I clawed the dirt until I lifted out a small wooden box, maybe 10 inches wide. It was sealed before I tore it open. Inside were only two objects. One of them was a human skull with a massive fracture on top. The other one was an old pickaxe, where a dark red stain had long dried. Terror ran through every vein in my body when I saw it, and then I heard it again, the branch snapping behind me. I whipped around, panic in my throat. Now I could hear the steps coming my way. Whoever had killed her was here to finish the job with me. More snapping, closer this time. My eyes darted between trees, desperate to catch movement. Then I saw it, a figure in black wearing a hat. And behind him, 3 more shapes, police officers. Turned out my dad had called half the town's police department, begging them to stop me. That's what saved my life. They told me the pickup I'd seen earlier probably belonged to the pickaxe maniac. When they searched it, they found hair, scraps of skin, even a severed finger. Inside were dozens of letters, all written the same way as the ones I'd gotten. For some twisted reason, he seemed obsessed with me, like he wanted to finish what he'd started with my mom years later. He wasn't caught that day. He must have bolted into the woods on foot the second he spotted the cops. The only good thing that came of it was this. Just a few yards away, they found another box with my mom's remains. We could finally give her a real burial. But I can't shake the feeling that nothing's really over. I still don't know what that monster wanted with me. I still don't know how he knew about the nickname Carrot. And, most important of all, I still don't know where he is. He's still out there. I should clarify, I bought my new house about 3 months ago. Nothing too fancy, just what I can afford. To be honest, I consider myself lucky that I was able to get it. I've always had a thing for old houses, so when it came on the market, I jumped at the chance. I didn't really notice the window at first. I think I was just keen to get the sale through and get settled. From the street, it all looks perfectly normal with the weird window on the second floor above the porch. I say weird, there's really nothing particularly unusual about it in terms of the outside. But inside the house, no matter how often I walk around the upstairs rooms, it just isn't there. At first, I assumed it was some trick of the architecture. Old English houses can be pretty eccentric, with all sorts of awkward angles, funny doors that open into places you don't expect. In my house hunt, I certainly viewed a fair few odd ones. I suppose I told myself it was a charming quirk. Still, I started making a few notes in the first week, more for planning's sake than anything. The upstairs has 3 bedrooms, 1 main hallway, and a smaller cross hall that connects them. I cross-checked my scribbles to the floor plan from the estate agents. I even measured it all, checking everything lines up where it should. And it does. Except when I try to account for that window. The measurements, if you can call my pacing around measuring, imply there should be a space roughly the size of a cloakroom that just isn't there. I thought maybe there was some closed-off loft space. Between the rooms, between the walls, there's nowhere for it to go. I still can't get my head around it, but with all the stress of moving, I sort of pushed it out of my mind. At least until the noises started. I first noticed the noises in about my 3rd week in the house. After a late night painting the living room walls, I heard this tapping from upstairs. I was a little spooked, I'll admit, but I figured it was just house-settling noises and chalked my nerves up to poor sleep. I kept telling myself the same thing every night as the noises carried on. It was this tapping and these drawn-out creaks, like wood expanding and contracting, every single night, starting at 1 in the morning like clockwork. It always seemed to come from the same place, the right-hand wall of the upstairs hall, just where the missing space should be. I did my best to ignore it, but as the days passed, the noises seemed to get louder, more insistent. They started to wake me up at night, and I could swear they'd gotten less like creaks and taps, and more like deliberate knocks. I even started to pick out the sound of glass being knocked rather than wall. I started losing sleep so badly, I was debating taking time off work. After nearly 2 weeks of it, it wasn't just the knocking. The whole house started to feel unbalanced, like something just out of sight was really wrong. My interest in the window came back. In the tiny bits of sleep I could get, I swear I was dreaming about it. I called in sick from work one Monday and decided to map every wall again. I counted steps, windows, doors. When my step counts didn't add up on Tuesday, I tore up the carpets and counted the floorboards. At 2 a.m. on Thursday, still in my pajamas, I decided to answer the knocking with my own. Basically, I swung a claw hammer into the wall. These layers of paper, paint, and plaster crumbled away as I kept hitting the wall, the history of the house that I loved just collecting at my feet. Eventually, it all gave way, and the knocking stopped dead. There was nothing. No hidden window, no secret door. Just brick littered with tiny chip marks from the hammer. Still a bit frantic, I pressed my ear to the wall. Silence. After that, I just ran outside into the rain and squinted at that damned upstairs window under the streetlight. To anyone looking out, it must have seemed like I'd gone mad. I suppose I had, really. I think I almost came to my senses until I heard it again. Knocking. The sound of someone knocking on glass. I haven't slept more than an hour in days now. When I close my eyes, I see the missing room, the space the house refuses to give up. In my mind, it's there, perfectly aligned, exactly where the measurements say it should be. I dream of standing inside it, but the dream always ends before I can turn around to see how I got in. The knocking is still there. I've tried to ignore it, to bury my head in pillows, drown it in white noise and podcasts, even leave the house entirely. It just follows me, 1 a.m, without fail, sometimes faint, like a distant memory tapping on the edge of a dream. Sometimes it's so loud I don't know how the neighbors don't hear it too. Nobody does. No one ever looks at that window either. I've watched them, delivery drivers, dog walkers, even friends I've tried to lure into noticing. Their eyes slip right past it like it isn't even there, like I'm the only one who sees it. The last few days, the knocking's been getting louder again, but it's not steady anymore. It's impatient, like frantic fists against glass. In the window. From outside, it is different again. I know it's different. For weeks, I thought its curtains were drawn, but yesterday I realized the glass itself is darker. When I try to stare longer, my eyes start watering so badly I have to look away. Or maybe I'm just crying. The house isn't balanced anymore. The walls don't feel straight. The floorboards give beneath my feet in places I know should be solid. Sometimes I find myself counting steps and stopping short because somehow I've taken more than I should have. I can feel it constantly. At the edges of my vision, the house breathes. The rooms are wrong. The hallways spiral in patterns that shouldn't be possible. I swear I opened 6 different doors today before I managed to get out. I know I shouldn't go back, but I think maybe I have to. I think I'm meant to. It's hard to explain, but that window is watching me. Even when I keep the curtains drawn downstairs, even when I sit with every light blazing, I can feel it somehow angled towards me, like the whole house has turned itself around. That room that doesn't exist is at its center, and I'm the one in it, just knocking to get out. I know how most of these start. I'm a normal guy with a normal job. My life is normal. Well, let me tell you what happened to me was not. I don't have to be to work until 10 most days. I was thanking whatever God that's up there for this arrangement the whole morning as I nursed the worst hangover of my life. The warmth of my coffee seeped through my thermos as I dragged myself down the stairs of my apartment building. My hands were full, so I used my pinky to open the back door of my car. I let out a big yawn and set my laptop back in the back seat. When I went to get in the front seat, I jumped back, dropping my coffee and letting out an embarrassingly high-pitched shriek. Sitting in my passenger was a man. He was wearing a tattered suit, deep reddish brown, stained the once white shirt. His skin was pale, and his eyes were stuck in a wide stare. I panicked. I kept having irrational thoughts like, if I call the police, would they think it's me who did this? Was it me who did this? Will I be charged a crazy fee for calling the ambulance? I can't even afford my Wi-Fi bill. How could I afford to call an ambulance? He'd still be dead even if I drove him, wouldn't he? He would be. That's what I decided. It wouldn't change anything to call an ambulance. And it wouldn't change anything to just drive him. So I'll just drive him to the hospital, explain the situation, and everything would be fine. Swallowing my fear and disgust, I got into a scar. I sat rigid in the driver's seat. I started the car and grabbed the steering wheel. I looked over at him again and cringed at his expression. There were slits in his shirt amongst the bloodstains. Stab wounds? With a shaky hand, I shut his eyes. His seatbelt was already on. Did I get plastered and go to the morgue? Where the hell did this guy even come from? I shook my head and started on the route to the hospital. The roads weren't busy, and thankfully I hadn't hit any stoplights driving through town. I couldn't believe it. No stops, no nosy pedestrians, no police. I took a deep breath and rested my head on the steering wheel. I let my eyes shut, and that's when I heard it. Breathing. My whole body jolted up, and I saw him suck in another dreadfully wet breath. Oh. No. Nope. No, I yelled desperately, trying to unbuckle myself. You're going to go in there. His words came out in airy rasps. And you're not going to come out. Finally, my thumb found the button and I threw myself out of the car. I mean, literally, like I fell onto the pavement. My legs kept moving without my permission and I ran through the automatic doors to the ER. The receptionist sat calmly chewing gum and reading over something in front of her. She jumped up as I clambered up to the desk. How can I dash? There's a... I couldn't breathe. My heart was slamming against my chest. There's a dead body in my car. I don't know how it got there. I know I sound crazy, but really there is. I don't know what to do or where it. Hit. I don't know. Please, you have to help me, I blubbered. I didn't think it through at all. What normal person would believe a single thing that I'm saying? The woman nodded her head slowly and then said, Okay, why don't you just sit down right over there and we'll get this figured out. I stared at her, trying to figure out if she believed me, but then did what she said. I sat down so that I could look out the doors. The view was obstructed with causation stickers, but it wasn't long before another person walked through, giving me a clear view of my car. Maybe my sight is going. Maybe it's my mind, but there isn't a body there anymore.